It looks like we are. Hey, everybody. Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 1, Episode 7, Much Ado About Boimler is over. But we're just getting started here tonight on Live Long and Podcast. I'm Dave Mader coming at you with Star Trek TV and movie reviews, joined with co-host Jaemeel Robinson and my brother Jeff Mader, also a co-host, to talk about this episode as we're covering the first season of Lower Decks. And, this is the 7th out of the 10th episode in this first run. We just watched it all together, but we haven't actually spoken of it. There were laughs along the way, but I don't really know what you guys think yet. So, Jaemeel, how are you doing tonight?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm good. We were just coming off of Big Brother earlier on, so now we go into our Star Trek Lower Decks mode here on Thursdays.
Good time.
And this I enjoyed this more than Big Brother earlier. Jeff, how are you feeling about tonight and about this episode?
Oh yeah, this was my favorite one so far, guys. I think it was the most Star Trek-esque episode that they've done. It was the most adventure-based. I thought they had the most fun with this episode. Whoever wrote this episode really got the point of what I think this show does well, but also melded it well with what I've kind of been missing from what they haven't really been providing me, which was more Star Trek themes and references. They do always do the references, but the themes I think were better in this episode.
This episode was written by M. Willis, who I've just looked up their credits. I'm not sure if that's male or female. Emmy Willis, I think is the name. And she or he, I think, is written on She-Ra, Princess of Power, the new series.
Yep.
From 2019, The Exorcist and Axe Cop.
But
it's part of this new writing staff, that Mike McMahon has put together here for the first season.
Yeah.
And
has been a writer's assistant on like Helix and The Exorcist. Same thing with the Big C production assistant for a while. So person's been in the industry for a bit, kind of behind the scenes.
Right. And I think, okay, so just in terms of this episode, I agree with you, Jeff. This is one of the best episodes I think they've done so far in terms of, we've talked about it in the past few weeks, or I think it was more like in the third and second weeks. We were talking about, wow, they really pack a lot of story into some of these episodes. And this one, I think, is especially that because we had 2 or 3 distinct storylines for our main characters. If you want to count the fact that that Captain Freeman and Ransom and Shax have all gone on this like covert mission, similar to when Picard and Worf and Crusher went on that mission to Cardassia, but the stakes are much less dire, and they're more like going to plant crops on some planet in their covert gear. So there's a lot of references to to that whole arc with Jellicoe. He's referenced on by name, and there's almost like a substitute teacher or substitute captain, if you will, and bridge crew who come in, with the exception of the doctor, like the Dr. Ta'ana. She's still on the ship, I think. She doesn't go with the rest of them, but yeah. And just to the point, yeah, like a lot going on. Like that storyline. There's the storyline with the substitute teacher, if you will, this friend of Mariners, who's from the academy. They were besties at the academy, but her friend has made it to captain by now, and she's an ensign, and she wants to work with her again. You come be my number one, and this will be great. We'll kick ass together, and I really like where that storyline goes. And then the other storyline is with Boimler and I guess Divana and this dog. The dog called the dog.
The dog.
The dog.
Yes,
the dog.
The dog
would be the formal way to say it. And the freaks, like the island of misfit toys, and all of like that angle that we got here. And then Rutherford comes in sort of in and out of this story to sort of, well, he's kind of he's the foil at the beginning to Boimler. He's the one who gives Boimler this transporter fact, because Boimler's just excited about the chance to suck up to new bridge officers where, so he can get promoted. But he ends up with this affliction, and he has to go sort of get cured of it. And I thought it was a great play on on everything to do with just like all the people who get transformed into things in Star Trek, like that a lot of those stories don't get resolved. Like if you got turned into a big salamander, like Paris and Janeway did that one time, and then they had babies, like all those kinds of things. So yeah, like a lot to talk about and a lot to be excited for. But I thought Q was going to be in this episode, guys. Where was Q?
Not this one. I think they might be saving it for maybe sweeps or the finale.
Did we get fooled there, or did they pull it from this episode potentially because it didn't need it?
What's the
What do you think
order?
happened?
Do you have a production order for? We don't. And I haven't heard anything about them changing the order. We do know the series kind of like this wasn't supposed to be premiering this early because they expected Discovery, but it got delayed. But I don't see any issue saying that it was going to be delayed. So I think this was indeed the 7th episode. So, yeah.
It says here on his IMDb that he's supposed to be in an episode next season.
Yeah, but he was supposed to have a cameo in this one. I thought that's the way they had billed this. I think it was even in like the next time last week, like wasn't it? Like
I don't remember.
Not that I don't think it needed it. I don't think we needed John Delancey and Q to come in here, but that's what I was sort of bracing myself for on this one. And maybe they say he is going to make a cameo this season, but it wasn't tonight, and that threw me off. But yeah, like okay, so who do you Jeff? Like who do you think? Which character advanced the most in your mind of like the main cast of the main characters?
I would say Beckett Mariner for sure, but I think Beckett kind of got a little bit of a wake up call in this episode, but she also kind of got to state her opinion on like why she doesn't really want to be a captain, or she kind of got like I got like the dynamic between her and the new captain that came in. But I also like enjoyed the two female like captain first officer dynamic that was going on. We never had that in Star Trek ever, so that was kind of fun to see.
Well, Georgiou and
that didn't end very well.
Yeah, that only lasted for like 10 minutes or whatever it was in the Battle of the Binary Stars. But
and I don't really count Discovery, but that's a whole other argument, and we're not going to go there. I just thought Beckett Mariner kind of needed this episode. She needed an episode away from Boimler. Boimler needed to go be with the freaks because he is a bit of a freak character in a lot of ways, and I thought they had a lot of fun with Boimler as well. It's funny, Dave, you say every episode like, oh, how much you love Rutherford, but Rutherford literally got the check off from the movie treatment where he literally just had to go get the transporter to work, and that was pretty much his whole role in this episode. Tendi had a little bit, they kind of focused a little bit more on her. I still don't think they're doing enough with her. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think that you need episodes like these, and you would have a better sense of all of the characters if there were more well written, and when I say well written, I mean character well written episodes. So like this was primarily a Boimler and Mariner episode, right? And it was one where they weren't together, which was great because they've been inseparable like all of the episodes.
Yeah.
You got Mariner, who you finally get a better sense of like people questioning her skill, right? And she is skilled, and they show like, okay, everyone in the academy thought that you were going to be a fast track to captain because you blew everyone away. But you see that there is issues she's dealing with, and she references it, that she's still trying to work through. So rather than this presented image of Mariner being this perfect person who's just kind of dogging it, right? We have like she's dealing with stuff, and we just don't know exactly what she's dealing with, and it's soon to be revealed, hopefully, as we go on throughout the series. Boimler, on the other hand, we have him on an adventure where you really see his little quirks coming to play for comedic effect. Seems very Star Trek, and it was enjoyable, like getting him away. Um, Not him being like the wet blanket he usually is to, like, Mariner and the Mariner Express that we always bum into. Tendi did not have that great of an episode, but it was great with her not being like, will she get with Rutherford as being like her storyline, and like it was her doing something. um I felt like if, let's say, we had another episode with the same type of idea of putting the characters in different positions, I think Tendi might have been one of the stars as opposed to Mariner and Boimler in this case. So I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't particularly mind the episode. I thought there were episodes that I enjoyed more and laughed more, but yes, I agree. This was one of the better, well written, from beginning to end episodes. More of these will change a lot of opinions about the show.
Yeah, I agree completely with you. Like that, this worked a lot better. I think in terms of the different characters, like I think Mariner really grew a lot in terms of her arc. I understand her more so. I liked this dynamic. I like to see when she's good at things, but I also like seeing this weakness. I was kind of getting annoyed with her. Like, why are you're not like I thought you were presented earlier on in the show as someone who was really good at this, but has a disdain for authority or something, and that's kind of the thing. And that was reinforced by the end of this, but it was kind of like a what's going on? I don't get this. And I liked this dynamic, as mentioned, between the two friends, right? And I think that there was something really real about the writing in this. Like this was very relatable, even from a workplace sort of point of view, and working with friends and maybe people you kind of when you were lower ranks and then you get up into the upper ranks and what that means. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And in terms of, there was some great comedy tonight, I think, with Boimler and Devanna. I think that this dog was really funny. I think that this whole whatever, and I think that she was funny because she had the dog to play off of, and that was the whole part of it. But then the dog flew off at the end. And then I was like, well, what now? What will Devanna have? Like, what will be her thing now? Because we said that her character is the one where we're struggling with, or at least I am, in terms of where she fits in with this sort of crew. Even though she was with Boimler, how many times did she actually talk to Boimler?
Not much. Not much. She was always particularly talking to the dog.
Right.
The dog.
And the dog was
Um,
funny. Like it played out pretty well. it
the
was it
dog
was
plays.
clever.
Like, I relate to Mariner in this episode because I, like her, am awesome at my job.
Mhm.
Like, for example, I was in a role for about 6.5 years. I had the same position at a company, and I had been asked multiple times to get promoted, and I have rejected it and said no. And I've seen other people who worked alongside me when I started who have been promoted, and uh, I recently took this promotion that I just had in January because I felt I was in a different place in my life. So having that kind of conversation and expectations that people thrust on you saying, "Hey, why aren't you where this is?" Like, I can relate to that. And each person has their own reason for it. And so hearing that and kind of hearing that play through, kind of like, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I appreciate this character a little bit more." Right. So
I agree. I think Beckett Mariner is like the kid that's super smart but still lives at home and hasn't moved out yet. But once her mom goes on a mission, all of a sudden, I think it's a bit of like, oh, okay, I don't have that safety blanket anymore, and she gets that reminder, like you said, Jaemeel, of like a coworker that she used to be probably even better than, kind of advancing through the ranks and getting more responsibility. And maybe Beckett Mariner says to herself she doesn't want that, but she knows she's good enough to have it. Actually, she's more than capable. She may be more capable than her friend. and it's just like it's like this untapped potential that Beckett Mariner has, that if she embraced it, she could be really amazing. And I think those are the type of things that Star Trek does well. Like those are the type of themes and the type of lessons that Star Trek tries to teach you. They're getting better in their writing, and getting more back to what Star Trek should be.
Right.
Do you? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I just was like, I was excited even tonight with like the whole plot line with Mariner and we keep referencing her friend, the other captain. It's Captain Ramsey, or Amina Ramsey was the guest captain, the Jellicoe, if you will. And I thought just like that, like, even though there's this tension and everything else, this whatever, and she's like, well, I'm not really into this, and she's like, wow, you used to love space mysteries, and I'm like, yeah, I love space mysteries too, right? And like the whole thing, but with like the alien that was inside of this other ship that they had to save, which I don't remember the name of, it doesn't matter, with the captain who's all afraid and everything else. I thought this was a great, like, this felt like Star Trek. I was like, oh, this is a great quick, like almost fast forwarded episode of Star Trek where, like, those plot lines are just playing out really quickly and the dialogue's way quicker. But I was following along. I was like, okay, great. Oh, what? And then it flew off and it was like encounter at Farpoint or whatever. And it's reference. But I'm like, no, but it's familiar and it tracks, and it kept me engaged, right? And I was happy by the end of this. I was happy during the episode, and I was happy at the end of it. And
Were you? Oh, sorry.
No.
Were you happy with the farm being an actual paradise as opposed to it being like this? The reason why I asked this question is because I feel like that whole farm thing was like two parts of, or two sides of, like, how people view Star Trek, especially nowadays, where people kind of wanting like the promise of this paradise. Starfleet is exactly what it says it is, versus this cynical, like, the farm is this torture ship that they're all trapped in, and kind of playing both sides against each other. Were you happy that the farm was an actual real planet?
I think I was.
Okay.
I think that they had a lot of fun with, like, where are we going and what's going on, and I think that this character, the Adosian, like the guy, I don't know who, the master, and the Adosians are these guys with the 3 arms and the 3 legs, and they're from the Star Trek the animated series, which is canon, and they've made a return here tonight. This character is an Adosian, because one of those characters served on the original series Enterprise, on the animated series, that is. And he was voiced by Fred Tatasciore, who is the voice of Shax. But Shax had no lines in this episode, so he was playing this guy instead tonight. I thought he did a really great job with this character. I thought he was creepy. I thought he was also sort of like this evil doctor, or like, what's his deal? And he's like, yes, and this is just the way I laugh. It was good. It was good. Like, it's what they've done a few times. We were like, they only have 22 minutes to tell this story. We don't have like, okay, and then we got there and it was the thing of horrors and whatever. It's like, no, we got to wrap it up. It's good. I think that the mutiny kind of like was silly and all that. Like, it just wrapped up nicely. I was like, good, yeah, that's good. I'm happy with how they played this out.
Cool.
If I had any concerns at all, I feel like maybe they're taking the Orville's playbook a little bit too closely, because I feel like the Orville also did this with, like, we're going to hit you with this hard comedy at the beginning, but after a few episodes, you're going to realize that this is just a Star Trek show that has jokes, kind of in it, but it's not necessarily the point of it. All the time, it's just to make you laugh. It's also to sort of have a story in it, which is when I think it will be more meaningful and will keep this show enduring beyond, like, I watch it, I laugh, and I'm done with it.
Right. I would say that this show is more geared toward a younger audience than any other Star Trek show that has ever come out. It's more geared toward people that are probably 25, 15 to 25, I would say. That age group is, yet there are the references that will get the people that are 25 to like 40. So they're trying to get both, write a show kind of for a younger demographic, but get those references in so the people that love Star Trek keep coming back and getting those laughs. So they're
and
trying
hopefully
to
hook a younger audience too, right?
yes.
They don't
that's
know
what-
about Adosians. They don't know about whatever, but like, it's,
But they can look it up. That's the thing about it, though. You have a demographic that is very connected, and a quick hop over to Memory Alpha, and they can see a whole ton of information about all the different connections, right? Like the meta commentary is what really grabs people a lot. And
This is why it's canon.
yeah. Stop it. Stop picking fights. Stop picking fights. I'm looking up M. Willis's Twitter account. A lot of talk about Star Trek for a bit. Was really looking forward to this show getting released. Yeah.
Also, here, this might be a fun fact. I don't mean to take your thunder, Jeff, but there was some different uniforms crossing over here. You might have noticed that the guy who was like the Two-Face character, who was half child, half an older man or whatever, he was wearing one of the old like 2370 uniforms, late 2370 style uniforms, and he had a post 2371 com badge, suggesting that he had been aboard the Ostler since before the lower decks uniform. Like, that's very similar to in Deep Space Nine's In Purgatory's Shadow, where Julian Bashir wore the original Starfleet with the blue shoulder, but then Worf got there with the gray shoulders, indicating that the Bashir we had was a fake. A fake. It's a fake. So,
I don't do fun facts for Lower Decks. I only do John Drew 76 reviews.
Right. Well, I talked about the Adosian, and then when this thing, like this alien like popped out of the I think it was called the Rebado or the Radau or something like that. Like it's another California class ship that is named after a city in California, but I wasn't as familiar with this name. But it came out, and then it was like the encounter at Farpoint alien, basically, that was inside of it.
Do you want to hear from John Drew 76?
Oh, John Drew 76. Is he coming around on the show? Is he happy with this episode?
Well, you'll be happy to know, Dave, that he said this 10 out of 10 star review from John Drew 76.
Wow. Wow.
He
10 out of 10?
10 out of 10. He says the title of his review is "This is Actually Star Trek." He says the best episode. It's very serious most of the time. It's 25 minutes long. It's great. A must watch. I still hate the first 3 episodes of this show. That was the end of his review.
So, well, I feel like he's turned around. I feel like he hated the first 3 episodes unjustly, and then a little bit too much, and then he was way up on these other middle episodes that weren't as good. I feel like the show was kind of like the pilot's kind of not the greatest, but then I thought 2 and 3 were strong, and then we sort of took a dip here for 3 weeks, and now we're sort of coming back up. But we'll get to the ratings, but I feel like this was better tonight in a lot of ways. I think we're all kind of talking about what we liked about this episode, how much they fit in, how the characters advanced or didn't, and what were the funniest moments. And I think that if those are the things we're all hitting on, then I think it's, how can you complain too much? But if it's like, I think the last couple of weeks, it's like, why are they doing this? What's this? What is going on with these two? And there was none of that tonight because the characters were growing and mixing and interacting in new ways, which is what they got to keep doing.
Yeah, for sure. Martin Smarks also has a review that is also 10 out of 10. It says, I didn't like the first 6 episodes, but I really enjoyed this one. Especially loved that particular one of the worst episodes of Star Trek Voyager reference, but it's also a problem because if you aren't so familiar with the older Star Trek, you would not understand many of the references, which we were talking about earlier, about the younger generation maybe not understanding them, but I don't think they need to. I think it's I think a lot of kids watched The Simpsons growing up and didn't know what the hell they were making fun of, but just laughed because they knew it was funny.
There's still some Simpsons jokes that go way over my head because they're from like the 30s or something. I don't know what the hell they're referencing at all. It's like I think it was just to make the writers laugh sometimes, but and maybe there's something to that. Yeah, I don't know if the references matter. Like, what did they reference tonight that was going to like really throw off any new viewer?
Well,
No.
Jellicoe at the beginning, like if you did not know,
That okay, that's one example. Yeah, where she says, I don't want any Jellicoe coming in here." That's definitely for us. That's for that 27 to 40 crowd who is looking for references. But for the people who under that, yeah, that
people
word
who watch
wouldn't
the
have any.
animated series would not know the not the Andorian
Edosion?
Andosian. Yes,
But I don't think it matters if they know his species has been in the show before,
true.
right?
But like little
And
things that pop up, like it's like, oh, like the uniforms thing, a special type of person would
yes, only a special uniformed obsessed guy like me. But
Yeah,
yeah, like
I didn't even pick up on that. I didn't
I
really.
picked up on the uniform. I'm like, oh, Dave's gonna love that. It's like, oh, look at the different uniform there. Okay,
yeah, that's acknowledging the continuity of the uniforms in the canon of Star Trek, which is an important thing, right? So
sorry, but I love it.
that's the biggest thing I always I'm on about canon is costume. Also set design, but also mostly costume. I want consistency.
Okay. We got a reply. I messaged or tweeted to M. Willis. I said, "Great job, just reviewing on our podcast, and the entire panel loved it, and really liked the character progression." We got a like. Or
It's
I got a
great. Like, hey, like this writer deserves some real like
And
props for this because
the
I think
feedback from the community has been pretty strong. Like, um, I would hate to see Cochrane's Twitter from last week.
yeah,
He would have got a lot of
John Cochran, like from Survivor, which is
from
another show we
Survivor.
cover.
Yeah.
And last week's episode, yeah, we didn't like it as much, right? There was they were forcing some references in, like this whole like tonight with the transporter thing that Rutherford sets up with Boimler is very much The Fly, right? Like it was just like this transporter that goes across the room and it had the wire going across. It was very much a reference to The Fly, but it didn't feel forced like last week's. What was it last week that was in it? Like something.
Is it bad that I can't remember last?
I can't remember. It was like Die Hard or something they threw in. Oh no, it was Diplomatic Immunity. That's what it was.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, it was like Diplomatic. I was like, why is that in here? Right. But this tonight was like kind of a subtle sci-fi nod that was more like, you don't wink at me while you're doing it. So
You know what it felt like? It felt like the writer was going to be writing more episodes. So it didn't feel like they were just kind of like, oh, I got to throw in every joke that I know. Like Diplomatic Immunity made no sense. It was kind of just plopped in there. Whereas this one is like, I'm setting up seeds, I'm progressing with this character. Is this a new Boimler who's trying to get back to the farm? He seems kind of like this was him being a little bit of a rebel kind of thing where he's like, I'm gonna break the rules or do some funny business so I can get into a situation that is enjoyable to myself, right? Here's Mariner being responsible after a little character progression. Like, it seems very different from last episode where it's just like, here's a bunch of sequences and you'll laugh and here's a joke kind of thing, right? This one, like, it was a very nuanced story, I felt.
Yeah, it was more in the vein of a Deep Space Nine episode rather than, like a one-off. It felt like they could, come back to some of the things that happened in this episode or have fun with different things. And the characters, like you said, Dave, got to grow, got to actually have something to do, and we got to get to know them a little bit better. They weren't just there to fill the joke that they wanted to write in that particular scene. It seemed like a real story, which this show needs to do. The show needs to tell a story. It can't just be, Robot Chicken, or Family Guy. Because if it is, then it's, not quite, Star Trek to me.
well, why bother to me? Like why? Like that's I'm not a Robot Chicken guy. Not that there's anything wrong with that show or shows but they're just like laugh marathons. They're joke marathons. I understand this is a comedy and that's sort of what you're always going to be doing, but I think it's like not at the expense of the story, not at the expense of character and world building as well, because this is Star Trek. Why are we here? Why are you doing this at Star Trek?
And I think your feelings like about is this canon or not, Jeff would feel a lot better if we had more substance and world building
Mhm.
that made sense, and that you can go back. Like if there was a book about the farm, like a serious book about the farm, you can like, okay, I would like to know about the farm from a serious perspective, how it works in Starfleet. Or maybe like if there was a follow-up story, whether it be on this show or in a book or in a comic book about was it Ramsey and her crew, right? I wouldn't mind reading it, right? Can I say that about other things that have come up in Lower Decks previously? Not really.
No.
Would I like to know more about the Ascension? No. I'm kind of good on that with
No.
what they showed. I chuckled at it, but I was able to move on. This was one of the first episodes where it's something that was in the story or presented or introduced in this show that I'm like, I wouldn't mind following that thread, whether it be on this show or in a book or something.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't, I don't really need to know the background of Badgie.
No. Oh, I forgot about Badgie.
Like
Ooh.
there's certain things that they do where it's like this just feels like a Family Guy episode, and well, I think they're wasting their time with those episodes. I think the show could be more, and tonight's episode showed more what the show kind of should be to me. You're right. They are kind of taking a little bit from the Orville, Dave, but the Orville is also playing in the same sandbox.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
yeah. No. It's almost like, why didn't you let Seth MacFarlane do this from the get a little bit?
Well, if this show was done like this animated Star Trek version was done by Seth MacFarlane, it'd be a very different show. I feel like.
No, but if he had gotten to do, like, if the Orville had been Star Trek, right? Like the live action Orville,
Right.
like if MacFarlane could have done a new Star Trek show that was comedy but still in the universe, right? And I think the Orville showed that that's very it would have just been in Starfleet uniforms instead of what it is, right? It would have been the USS Orville that would have been in Starfleet, but it would still have had the same. Everything else, I think, would have been the same. And I think it would have been fine. I think it would have been good. I think it would have been what this is now, but it's animated, so that gives them a bit more freedom in some ways. It
A
restricts them
lower
in other
budget
ways.
that they can do more with, more
Yeah,
budget friendly.
Budget friendly. They can, and I think they got a great cast here. Like, I don't know if you watched their panel, like on Star Trek Day, or how many of those panels you've seen, Jaemeel, but I watched the panel for Lower Decks, which was hosted by Mika Burton, who is the daughter of LeVar Burton, and over on the CBS All Access YouTube channel, and it was really good. Like, I was liking these four. There was like the four leads: Rutherford, Devana, Boimler, and Mariner. They got a good chemistry together. I think that the four performers are funny, naturally funny people. They got Jack Quaid here, who I'm getting into The Boys.
Oh, bro,
right? And he's from The Boys. He's Huey, right? So I think I've just finished the first episode of the second season. So I'm just getting into season 2 now. But I think he's like they were talking about, like, when they watched the first episode and they saw their names up there, like sort of in the opening credits with the Star Trek Next Generation font. They're like, I guess we're on like this show now. I guess we're like part of the Star Trek family, and like they were like not. I don't think they even really understood when they were recording lines what they were becoming part of. But I think that this episode is like a launching point. Like, you guys can be a crew that's in this family. Like, you can fit in with Bakula and Archer and all that crap
That's not
too.
much of a bar, Dave. No.
Just step over that limbo bar, just like surpass the bar.
Right. And the Enterprise panel was decent too. I watched the Enterprise panel for Star Trek Day. I was like, fine, Enterprise, it's fine. So I forgive you.
They're better than Discovery, so we'll give them that. But
the Discovery panel was weird because it was just Kurtzman, this new showrunner, somebody or other, a woman, and the new guy, the guy who was from the Star Trek short. His name's Cook or something, or Booker. I think it's Book. He's like he was in one of the shorts last season.
Short treks, right?
Yeah, so he's basically joining the cast, right? So it was just those three, and was it? I can't remember who moderated that, but it was not Mika Burden, I don't think. And so it was that was a weird one. But I'm excited about what they were telling me. I think that there's promise on the horizon for Discovery, but that's neither here nor there. But
Like, considering Discovery, there's a lot more that we can get. If we're judging it from regular Star Trek shows outside of Enterprise, in 7 seasons you can do a lot.
Sure.
And 2 seasons, uh, we're kind of already seeing it on one of the best shows, Star Trek shows. There could be some rough patches where if that was the only thing that was, that you had as a sample size, then people would be dogging the show too. So, you only have so many duets and move along homes, that you could watch in 2 seasons.
Move along.
True.
We only have so many of those.
One of the top tier DS9 episodes.
Top tier.
top tier.
Top tier.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, like Lower Decks, it's fulfilling its purpose, but it's not. It's still going to be a joke centric show, and like what I was trying to say before, Dave, was like if Seth MacFarlane made an animated Star Trek show, because he's the animated guy, he made Family Guy, he made American Dad, he made the Cleveland Show, like he did all these different things. Now I know you don't like the Cleveland thing, Jaemeel, but and I don't like it either. But I'm just saying he's been in that realm. And
you specified that I don't like the Cleveland Show. All of the above, Alex.
you don't like Family Guy at all.
That is correct, Alex.
that was.
I liked it like maybe for a year, 15 years ago, but I got over it. Like it's not my favorite show either.
No.
But like it can be funny. But it's more like clippy. It's like, oh, I show you this joke, or I show you that joke.
Right. My point was, do you think Seth MacFarlane would have done a clippy Star Trek show and made it like Family Guy?
No.
Or do you think he would have done this?
He would have done that. He would have done this or the Orville style.
He likes Star Trek way too much.
Yeah, he respects Star Trek. He thinks it has an important message. Like you saw this in the Orville. He would that's why I thought I wasn't gonna like the Orville at first. I thought it was gonna be like basically making fun of Star Trek. And that's kind of why I held off on watching Galaxy Quest for as long as I did, because that's what I thought Galaxy Quest was. But that's not really what Galaxy Quest is, and that's not what the Orville is, and that's not what this is either. Like it is making fun of Star Trek. It is being meta, but it's not being derogatory. It's still being truthful to what's important about Star Trek and the messages. And tonight, like they actually were able to do something with their character with Mariner that was really compelling and made you kind of think. And how does this relate to me? Like, do I want to be promoted in life, or am I happy sort of doing this particular job? And what, just because that's what other people want doesn't mean that that's what I have to be. Or what maybe my goals in life can change, or my priorities can and that's what. So that was like, to me, like the moral of this story, or what we were seeing sort of progress with her. Plus, we got some great like fun moments too with like the other characters. And like Rutherford, even just in the little bit he's in it, he was doing his thing. He's always excited about just doing his job really well. Like the whole thing with the transporter, he's like, it's half a second faster. Like the most like.
So is Boimler. Boimler has the same quirks. He's like just wants to be a Starfleet guy, and just it's really Beckett, Mariner, and I don't know if Tendy's just kind of like, I don't know what she is. Like Tendy's the one that bothers me the most of the four. Like I just don't get like what she's bringing to the table as one of the main leads.
She makes weird dogs that turn into different things, and
but the dog was what was funny, not her.
Okay. So Tendy is like the creator, putting himself in Star Trek. So like a huge fan of Starfleet, acting like if he ever got a chance to work on a starship. So that's why a lot of times he is like, or Tendy is like the third wheel, or the person observing things, or things are happening and there's a reaction to. So you're not really getting that much character, because maybe they haven't really thought about what is Tendy's character, because it's that type of character. It's like a camera, a perspective. That's it.
Maybe. I think that there's so much potential there because like just watching that panel and watching those four main cast members interact and learning in that the one who plays Tandy, Noelle Wells, she's really the big Star Trek fan of these four people who are playing the four lower decks leads. And so I'm like, and she was the funniest too. She had the most charisma, I think, in that panel, but that's not coming through with this character yet. There's a lot that they can bring here with just her energy, her personality alone, if they can allow that to kind of come into this more. But maybe in an animated series, that's not going to happen as fast. Maybe that could be more of a season progression than an episode by episode progression like you would see in most series.
I don't think they know how to write for her yet. I just don't think they know what makes her good and what makes her fun and what her quirks are and what like they're trying to kind of like go. They kind of had the other three fleshed out pretty well, but I don't think they know where to go. They're kind of like Julian Bashir at the beginning of DS9. They didn't quite know what to do with him, and then they figured it out later. I think it's the same thing with Tindy.
Maybe we're supposed to be doing something. Hey, Commander.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! All right, so are we getting to ratings?
Yeah, let's get to ratings because I feel like that's everything that we have to unpack in that episode, right? Like, I don't think there was anything.
I just want to say I loved the stealth Shax, Captain, and Ransom stuff. Where
that was so funny.
I want action figures now, and I want like a 3-person set of that.
I want a Cerritos too. I want a Cerritos like ship for my collection. They don't sell it yet.
Yet.
The ship is starting to grow me too. I'm starting to really like the ship. And
you've been looking, haven't you, Dave, for a Cerritos ship?
Are you surprised?
No.
Okay. So, Jaemeel, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm gonna go. I would, 8. I'll go 8. Really liked it. I think it was really, really strong episode.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'm gonna do an 8 as well. I'm gonna same score.
I'm going 9.4.
Whoa! Whoa! What is happening here?
Well, I feel like I gave Temporal Edict a 9.3, so I have to give this a 9.4. But maybe I need to bring down.
Right, go to 8.1. I need to give it a higher than Temporal Edict. I liked it more than Temporal Edict.
Well, I think I've been fairly consistent.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. I feel like I have to dial back this Temporal Edict, but I'm gonna go back to a 9, just so, or it's not 9.
90.
No.
Whoa,
but I feel like this deserves like a 9.3 or something like in that range. So I feel like 9.4 is a little high. So I was reacting more to what I've done before. Yeah. So okay. So so just so if you're listening along on the audio version here, so our rating tonight for Much Ado About Boimler averages out at an 8.5, which is the strongest episode of the of anything. Like the closest was Temporal Edict at 8.3, and Envoys, which is the second episode, got an 8. But as mentioned, we had some rough weeks here, like a 6.8, and then went down to a 6.5 for week 5, and then 5.3 for week 6. So it was really starting to kind of like. Not so many good episodes, and then this one is just a really sharp uptake. I wonder if we're looking at it with a little bit of too much rose-colored glasses, just because we've had 3 okay weeks, but not anything that was like blowing us away. And then this was kind of like, okay, now you guys are starting to kind of figure out what this show could be, right? And how you can kind of balance everything at once in 22 minutes, because it's incredible what they're getting done in 22 minutes. It really is. Like, and the writer, again, what's her name? M, or it's a him or her? We're not even sure, right? But whoever they are,
her,
they're doing a good job.
M. Willis.
Yes, her.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, so that's the rating. So, just looking ahead to next episode, it's going to be called. I don't know. Actually, the name of this next episode, I don't believe is released yet.
I haven't seen what episode it was.
Yeah, I know. I haven't. Has anyone seen a Next Time?
Oh,
here's the preview. I don't know if we dare what. well. It's probably take a minute to watch that preview.
I don't see it mentioned. Even on Memory Alpha, it's
No, Memory Alpha has no mention of it yet. I think they just released it tonight or today, maybe. So
you know what?
I'm watching the preview right now. Looks like more Black Ops stuff.
What?
Um,
I like it a lot.
it looks like they're going to Vulcan.
Ooh. That's good.
Looks like a first contact situation. I see Mariner and Boimler working on the bridge with the main bridge crew. I saw Devon Attendee wearing that black outfit with like that skull cap thing that we saw the three of them wear tonight. Ransom, Freeman, and Shax. So more like, and I even saw like those old weird Vulcan security looking uniforms from Search for Spock. So they were on Vulcan. So I don't know what the heck was going on in that episode, but it looked like they were busy. And it looked like we get more more Freeman and Mariner potentially. Put them on the bridge, because I think like what we've been saying is we want to see this bridge crew maybe shine a little bit more too, with these, knowing that these lower decks people are the main leads, but that the bridge officers are important too. Like they give the doctor a bit more to do tonight, like her scenes where she's like, that now this is the most annoying thing, and then she's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. she was funny. I'm enjoying that doctor. Okay, so I think that's it. Before I pull up the screen, join us here on Live Long Podcast tomorrow night, as we're going to be doing Star Trek Radio Theater. We are redoing an episode of the original series, The City on the Edge of Forever, one of the most beloved Star Trek episodes ever. We have Michael Chan playing James T. Kirk, Kevin Millard playing Spock. We have our good friend Tom Mott Tyrell coming in to play Dr. McCoy, as he's never been a member of this cast before, so that's going to be very exciting. This is where McCoy goes insane and injects himself with cordrazine. I'm going to be playing Sister Edith Keeler, as originally played by Joan Collins, and Jessica Chan will be playing Scotty, Chief Kyle, Lieutenant Galloway, the policeman, a bunch of characters, and Jeff's going to be playing the Guardian of Forever, which with Jaemeel, with your sound effect, maybe you should have been the Guardian of Forever. I don't know.
The Guardian.
Right. Yes, a homeless man and Lieutenant Hakaru Sulu, with Ashley Millard helping to tell his story as the narrator, and being our Lieutenant Uhura and the driver who almost runs over Spock and Kirk once they end up back in Depression era New York, 1930s New York. So check that out. That will be 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, streaming live on Facebook and YouTube on Live Long and Podcast. Also here on Live Long and Podcast, we have Deep Space Nine rewatch episodes on Tuesdays. We're just getting into the second season. We got through the 3-part Bajoran opener. If you were waiting just to skip over that, we understand. And we're heading into the 4th episode of season 2 next, which is a great episode, which stars guest stars John Glover, the great John Glover, coming in to steal the Dax symbiote. So that's I'm excited to talk about that one. And then next Wednesday we're doing original series, as we continue to watch original series with our dad Ted, Jeff, and I, and along with Jody and Adam Woodward, and we just did Miri this past week, and now we're heading into the Return of the Archons, where Kirk is wearing a Colonel Sanders outfit. So that's fun. And then, of course, here Thursdays, as you know, as you've been here with us for the last 49 minutes, that this is where we do the, for now, the Lower Decks season 1 recaps. We only got 3 more to go, and then we're going to be heading in about a month into Star Trek Discovery. So we'll not necessarily be everyone here, but we're going to be covering that here on Live Long and Podcast as they go into their 3rd season, which I'm optimistic about. And our other channel, Super Mater Brothers Podcasting, where Jaemeel, Jeff, and I talk about Big Brother 3 times a week, Sundays, usually Wednesdays and Thursdays. This week was a bit of an odd one. We had a Tuesday. But anything on the live feeds yet, guys? By the way, we finished our other podcast and didn't even get to the HOH.
I don't have it.
No, there's nothing. How could this be? It's a travesty. And our third channel, which is Trivial Debates, which is our monthly show where we fight about music, movies, TV, sports, and more. Which we're going to have our first ever teams match at the end of this month. It's a great big episode where me and Jeff versus Jaemeel and Chris Seymour, and we also have Jody and Kevin with Kevin's wife Ashley judging. So it's going to be quite the contest. So check that out. Nothing on the live feed. So anyway, with no further ado, we're going to sign off here for Live Long in Podcast. I'm Dave Mader on behalf of Jaemeel Robinson and Jeff Mader. Have a good night. Live long.